people who actually dressed up as a creepy clown. During the 2016 clown sightings, why did you do it? Story 1. About this time of year, nearly Halloween but not too spooky yet, was homecoming for the local high school. I was at my boyfriend's house, and his younger sister had a bunch of people over after the dance. They were all hanging out upstairs. I knew they were the type to scare easy, so I hatched a plan. I did some shopping at Walmart, picked up a purge mask and some face paint, along with the classic rainbow poofy hair clowns have. I painted the mask to look like a clown, donned the wig, and just used a black HODIE dot with help from his parents. I acquired a ladder and crawled up onto the porch roof just outside her window, and banged on the siding while leaning to the window. Poor friend was the first to see me. Let out a shrieking, "Clown." And basically it was around 7 girls. That sounded like they were getting murdered. I took off the mask when one came at the window with a hammer, and they have not trusted me since. Doesn't help that after the first IT remake, I put a red balloon in her room. Story 2. I didn't dress up as one, but my neighborhood was covered in them for about 2 weeks. I lived in a neighborhood that was right on the edge of a sketchy area, so I was used to some interesting characters. But these people scared the living shit out of me. I let a friend and her 2 kids going through a rough time move in with me prior to this, and I was watching them for her while she was at work. The daughter and I were in the kitchen while I was cooking dinner, and the baby was asleep. We'd seen the clowns a few times at the end of the road, under a streetlight that was blinking, but they never got that close to the house. But I was already on high alert because of it. I was cutting veggies and there was a window directly in front of me, and I hadn't been looking out of it, but I felt someone staring at me. I look up, and like something out of a horror movie, that clown is staring up at me from my driveway, like 6 inches from my window. I had a giant knife in my hand and I tried not to lose it, because I didn't want to scare Cammy friend's kid. So I kind of just held up the knife and stood right where I was and stared back. This people never moved. He just stayed right where he was for several minutes. I backed up and got my gun out of the case and called 911. They never found him, but it scared the living shit out of me. And I was a nervous wreck having those kids by myself that night. Story 3. I remember when this was happening. Facebook posts came out about someone dressed as a clown on my road. I lived on a kinda secluded road, so the rednecks in the area wanted to go hunting. I'm assuming because they were such big strong men to hunt down a supposed child prankster. Well, it turns out the clown was a mentally ill man that ran off in the woods, and had been missing for like 3 days. And to make matters worse, the caretaker for the man never made a missing persons report for the man. Story 4. Technically I did it in 2014. I worked for Warner Brothers as an intern. I answered an ad I saw on my way to work through the lot for a marketing campaign, but they were oddly vague about what it was for except for viral marketing. I now assume it was for IT. I had been a creepy clown for Halloween 5 years earlier and still had the costume, and they offered me $100 per a day I did it. I had to be photographed at least once and put on social media to get paid. It actually was really fun, kind of like working in a haunted house, though I learned to mostly go for teenagers. Much younger and they would be scared. Much older and they couldn't take the joke and would be angry. I did it 3 times in total, but only got paid for the first 2 times, mainly in Santa Monica and Venice Beach. I have no idea if the 2016 people were part of the same campaign, or maybe were inspired by the campaign, or if it was completely unrelated. I did sign Ainda. But hey, it's been 5 years and I really don't think they are coming after me or anything. Story 5. I only did it once and it was to scare my friend while he was out walking his dog at about 11 p.m. I texted his mom earlier that day and asked if she could make him walk the dog late, and she did. I stood at the end of my driveway, which is about a 1/4 mile long and surrounded by thick woods on either side, so you couldn't see very far into it. I crouched behind the pad-mounted transformer box, giggling like a little kid as I heard him approach. I waited for him to pass, then crept down the road behind him carefully as to not make any noise. After a minute of careful creeping, I was right behind him. So I yelled and wrapped him up in a bear hug from behind. Let me tell you, he freaked the F out. He jumped about 3 feet up in the air and shrieked like a little girl. I went perfectly until I was tackled by his Great Dane and drowned in slobber. She recognized me when I took the mask off, so I didn't get mauled. Story 6. I didn't do it, but me and my wife had a run-in with one. At the time, I lived on a back road in the woods, and at night it would get dark except for this one street light. Anyways, we used to run this road either at night or early morning, and always alone because someone has to watch the kids. One night this clown popped out on her under the street light, and I heard her scream from a mile away. So every night I run this track hoping I get my turn, and I did. I was so mad I threatened to rape and kill him, because it seemed like the worst thing you can say to someone. He ran home and told his mom. She came to my house, then heard the rest of the story, and his dad beat his ass. The way he was doing this, he's very lucky he didn't get shot. I'm pretty new to Reddit, but this seems like it's blown up a bit. For clarification, this kid was tall and big, and didn't seem like a kid, but I'm not sure I would have done anything different, even if I knew he was. There were 2 incidents prior to this that I didn't know about until afterwards, where cars almost wrecked and police were called. This actually saved me because he didn't tell his mom about the clown part, so when I did, it all came together for her. I should also mention that he did chase my wife for maybe 100 yards or so. At the end of the day, if you F with someone, you lose the right to complain about their reaction. IMO. Story 7. I had a mate do it for YT. He was trying pretty hard to get a decent view count to kickstart the channel. Think he was on to 3K subs. He rounded up some friends, invited me. I chose not to partake, and set it all up in a multi-story car park local to us. 1 million views. He cleared 1 million views on this clown video, despite it being fake and set up. Bearing in mind his highest view count was 14K, and he averaged 500 to 1,000 on new videos. He ended up getting publicity on local news, a visit from the cops, and a jump to around 6 to 8K subs. He thought about doing it again for real, but decided otherwise. Think the warning from the cops was enough.